Welcome again, and good morning, although it doesn't look too good out there. But anyway, uh, a few things. I highlighted that, abstracted. Just keeping in mind the catalog will be January 10th, registration 14th to the 24th, and the classes begin on the 28th. With that, I'd like to thank you from all of us. And we started a lot of subjects we covered, and it's been delightful how much we all have learned, and I hope we didn't bore you too much. So thank you for your patience, all right? And with that, if I may allow, let's get back to Columbus. We left him, he had landed and he had done voyages and so forth, and we talked a little about the people he met and all of that. So then, we are now, what was next? Next was that rumors and details had been sifting back into Spain and then also to Hispaniola. There was a lot of stuff to be had if you continue going west and landed, that there was some kind of big empire, riches. This rumors filter. Of course, that immediately was interesting to several people. And we are going to begin really, what is really best about this Columbian exchange is yet to come, all right? And I thought we would start with the Aztecs. And we have the two actors, major actors, but not the only ones. And we have Hernan Cortés, or if I want to introduce him correctly, is Don Hernan Cortés de Monroy Pizarro Altamirano, Marquis of the Valley of Oaxaca. Okay. Well, Oaxaca didn't start, so he made it to be a Marquis. And then we have Moctezuma II, okay? He was Moctezuma Xochitl. He was the Tlatoani, that is the emperor of Tenochtitlan. What on earth are you talking about? Talking about this. The Aztecs came from the north of Mexico City today, from the desert type. And they really were a ragged bunch of people. Didn't know much, didn't have anything, so they showed up in the Valley of Mexico, where there were established tribes or cultures already. They didn't want them there. So to get out of here. So the only thing left was this lake, this big lake, and they had some little islands in there. So they moved in there and settled in one of those islands, and they started building and building with the mud from the river, from the lake, and it increased. At the same time, they were very good fighters, and they started hiring themselves out, mercenaries, to the tribes or cultures that surrounded this lake. And they were very good at that. And they, of course, with that and the revenues and the knowledge that they had, they started getting bigger. And then all of a sudden one day they said, hey guys, we're now independent. Now you depend on us, not we on you. So that's very short. Books written about this, so there's no point in detailing. But this is what they created. It was Tenochtitlan. And they started very, very little, and they started adding on that. This is a pretty good rendering from the knowledge we have. And guess what? We do have accurate knowledge on the Aztecs and what happened there. There are records, very good records, of people who participated in the conquest of the Aztecs, that was the empire, and vice versa, from the noblemen of the Aztecs that set down things of how they work, how they function, and so this we have, yeah. So this is Tenochtitlan, okay? And you have this is the lake, Lake Texcoco. This area is freshwater, and it's slightly higher than the rest of the lake. Notice there is this thing here. So fresh water ran this way, and fresh water was all the way here, okay? And you notice this, and this is called the Albarrada, the barrier that was set up to probably one of the smartest men that the Americas have produced. He was Nezahualcóyotl, engineer, poet, you name it, musician, and he designed this barrier so that the fresh water would always be going into the brackish water, okay? And no brackish water would get into the fresh water. That was the key that allowed him to develop Tenochtitlan, okay?
Can you say his name again?
I'm sorry?
Can you pronounce his name again?
Nezahualcóyotl. No, let me tell you, Nahuatl is not an easy language, no. But it's beautiful. I've listened to it. By the way, it's still spoken, very much alive. These are artist views. We think they're pretty accurate of what the Aztecs had. Here's some more quickly. So they used the lake itself and canals to do trading with the surrounding tribes and so on. They very wisely limited the number of entranceways to their island, okay, so that it could be defended easily. This had consequences too. And you see them trading. I think you got the temple, of course. We'll go into that in a little while. And what are we talking about? If we look at Mesoamerica, it extended all the way down down to Costa Rica. These were the different cultures that were going on, not just the Aztecs, others, okay? So you had the Olmecs over here, you had the Mayas over here, and you have the Aztecs and others as of 1519. This is what it looked like. Notice too that they were independent nations, the Mixtec kingdoms. These were independent, and some very close and next to the Aztecs. The colored ones, this says independent. The whole Aztec thing began by Itzcoatl, and that was 1427, and successive Tlatoanis of successive emperors conquered and added to it, okay? Remember, I said they were very good at war, and each one will add some for and Ayacatl, and the Tizoc, Ahuitzotl, and then Moctezuma the second, which is the one that we'll be dealing with, okay? So if you look at it, the whole thing happened really quickly because, and historically speaking, from 1427 until it ended in 1519 with the arrival of the Spanish. Okay, so I've said a lot about them. What was the Aztec Empire about? Well, very simple. And you'll see the parallels now. Think what I said about the Castilians. A society entirely dedicated to war. In their belief, warfare could be for political reasons, that is, conquer, or more importantly, for the capture of men to sacrifice to the god Huitzilopochtli. Okay, this is the god of war and the god of peace, the two things. Okay. And this is the way they went at it. I mean, it was really quite savage. But in their fights, their main aim wasn't to kill, but to capture and bring prisoners to sacrifice to Huitzilopochtli. If they didn't do that, okay, Huitzilopochtli would get angry and bad things will happen, okay? That's the guy. And they would bring prisoners, whatever, and sacrifice them. These are skull racks. There is a lot of revisionism going on, and you gotta watch it. I remember being told by my Mexican friends that this was a Spanish invention, that there was no such thing as skull racks. Well, they started digging to do the subway and so on, and they found them. So there was. But there's a lot of revisionism. You got to heed to the facts. Okay, why you do this? It makes sense. It really makes sense. Blood was the essence, the highest and most valuable thing that a human has. So they thought that this is something that Huitzilopochtli would be very pleased and wanted to. So that was the basis of the whole thing. So, but you had to keep Huitzilopochtli fed, okay? As you would expect, when you start doing war around and muscling your way and capturing people and so forth, and even exacting tribute from them, you get enemies. And they were surrounded by them. But then the Tlaxcalans, one of the major enemies of the Aztecs, the Huastec, another one. You know. These were cultures, big places, each one of them. And the Aztecs managed to antagonize them through their activities. Then the Purimpecha, they were to the west. The Aztecs never could dominate these guys. And then the Mayans themselves were enemies, and they had wars, and they fought, okay? The point is they were surrounded by enemies, the Aztecs. And here's none other than the Marquis. In conversation, you guessed it, with the Tlaxcalan. And here is Doña Marina. That was the woman of his life. The Mexicans call him the Malinche, the bad one. But the Castilians call him Doña. And Doña is equivalent female of Lord. So she was very much respected. She was a very bright translator. She quickly learned Castilian and Mayan and Aztecs, and of course Cortes, so that she was very useful to have around. 1517, Cortes lands with a limited force from Cuba, and proceeded to invade the empire, because he was told they were there. So he goes. The initial penetration was of limited success, and I'm not going to go into detail on this because there's a lot of literature on these subjects. But he got in there in spite of the entreaties of Moctezuma II, please don't come. We don't need you here. He didn't pay any attention, went into Tenochtitlan. Then he had to tend to some business, left. One of his subalterns killed the emperor, and that caused a tremendous riot. They had to get out of there, lost half their men or more, and it was just a disaster. Did he leave? No. He then got to talking to the Tlaxcalan, and he got additional forces from Cuba, and proceeded to attack again. He had come from Spain initially, went to Cuba, okay, and informed the governor, Diego Velázquez, that what he was going to do is to have his expedition land in the mainland west and proceed to conquer the place. Well, they didn't get along. So Velázquez allowed it to go, but then the day before said, no, you can't go. Well, he didn't pay any attention and kept on going. So landed over here, then one over here, one over here. And here is where Veracruz is, Nuestra Señora de Veracruz. It was founded by Cortés, okay, and his people. All right? Aided by the Tlaxcalans, he said, do not go directly as you did before. You need to go through the mountains and come north because it's much easier if you know the pathways to transport materials, people, and so forth. And he did that, okay? And then he showed up in Tenochtitlan and proceeded to attack it, laid a siege. The guy was so good, they carried ships over all of this, excuse me, disassembled and assembled them there so that the whole of Tenochtitlan was surrounded. See, the initial idea that allowed the Aztecs, okay, to defend themselves because they only had these few access roads into the city turned against them. Because if you cut them, then you don't have supplies or fresh water. Okay? Remember I said before, who were you dealing with? The Aztecs were superb warriors. So were the Spanish. Remember the tercio I explained you? And they called themselves conquistadores, conquerors. Okay. Not only did they defeat the Aztecs and destroy their empire, but they also started on the Mayas. That comes later. Near the end, Moctezuma II's reign, there were 38 tributary provinces, and the Aztecs were flourishing. So it isn't that Cortés got there when they were weak or anything. They were actually at their peak of power. The conquistadors, with the help, and underline the help of enemy tribes then, of the Aztec, defeated the Aztecs. A lot of literature as to who really did the conquering there, okay? Well, my opinion is they had the men, 80-some thousand, mixture of the Spanish, very few, and the Tlaxcalans and others. But the Spanish taught them how to fight. This is why not only wisely used enemy, but then it started infiltrating into the politics of the Aztec nobility. They immediately started blending. Cortés encouraged marriage of the Spanish onto the nobility of the tribes around. The Aztecs had two types of war. Large-scale war, conquering war, just to grab land and people and so on. And then the other wars, which you call small wars, flower wars. These are wars that with the purpose of capturing prisoners for sacrificial purposes. Important to understand that, because when you fight and in battle for capturing somebody, there is a certain technique that you follow. But when you fight to kill, it's a different game, all right? This So the Aztecs were more used to this flower war than the direct war, confrontation war, attack war that the Spanish were so good at. Okay. Aztec warfare, they didn't have a permanent army. All men were expected to take part. Elite warriors were this kind of thing. Can you imagine going to battle with all that on top of you? Wore padded cotton armor. Weapons included obsidian. I will show it to you. The training began early. Echo of the Spaniards too. Remember I said the kids would come in 13, 14 years old. The training began. And it was very much led by experienced warriors. They took 5 students, and they would show them into battle and so forth. So it was on-hand training. Okay. Captured. Okay. Captured, take to priest, sacrifice, and eat part of their heart and so forth. I mean, it sounds horrible, but that was what they were expected to do to graduate as warriors. So they had jaguar warriors, they had the eagle warriors, and then they had the rapados. These are different outfits. The eagle warrior was the best. So they were graded according to their efficacy and so forth.
What is a warlock?
I'm sorry?
One of the things that said that now they're warriors, so they wear a warlock. What's a warlock?
The head thing that they had. Yeah, see that? Right here. He's dressed as a leopard, or jaguar, I should say. This is the eagle, and this is a pointy hat-like thing. Each one had a definite category. Yeah, all right. I thought I'd show you comparative warriors. And you had the Roman legionnaire, and here you have a Spartan hoplita, okay? And you have 2 pylons, the sword. This guy's got 1, but he has the equivalent of the sword, which is this. And then the hoplita. Okay. I'm sorry?
The sword that the
Yeah.
eagle warrior was carrying, what does it look like on the other side?
I'll show it. Okay. What they particularly lacked, what was the Spartan they had, is a phalanx, a formation, way of doing war in formation. And I show you here what I mean. You have that, and then, excuse me, and then going at it. And these are the weapons. Okay. Here it is. This is the Macuahuitl. That was their sword. Okay. And it was simply hardwood, and these are obsidian, okay, sharp obsidian glass that cut, okay. All right. So then you had the priest out here. He's got a heart over there. He's egging them on, and you got the jaguar, and you have the eagle warriors, okay. They also had the atlaw. Many cultures in the world developed this, a way of extending your arm and throwing fairly accurate a projectile. So you have Aztec weapons, you had the war club, okay, cut like knife but not through armor, okay. Heavy, needed 2 hands, okay. The Spanish weapons of the period, you had double edge, pointy, sharp. meter long and one-handed. Okay. Here's a collection. Okay. Those are Toledo swords. Toledo swords. And this one were the ones that they used. Aztec weapons, they had the atlao, that they could project something. They also had bows and arrows and the slings, that sort of thing. The Spanish had the crossbow, and the crossbow man was a very special person. And the crossbow was usually about 300 to 400 pounds, okay? So it took some doing to load it, but it was extremely accurate, and it could go through armor. But it was this one, the arquebus. People, I'm tired of reading revisionist stuff that the Aztec warriors were absolutely scared of this, and they just heard the noise and ran away. Totally wrong. The eagle war probably would have been, well, this is interesting. But I don't think they ran away. They were not trained to do so, and they did not surrender. So this thing had been in development in Europe from virtually a small handheld cannon to what eventually became the arquebus. I have fired one of these things 3 times, and believe me, it is an experience. All right. If you are very adept at it, I was not. 2 shots per minute, you can. Also, it fires a 1-inch diameter lead ball. Okay. You don't need much to keep a 1-inch diameter lead ball straight. It fires very straight. Range about 80 to 100 yards. Accurate. Okay. I'm sorry? That way? Well, you saw that they had to hold it. So you're talking about 15, 18 pounds altogether. Okay. They also carried these little things with them. This is the pedrero. Piedra is stone, so it's a stone thrower. And they carry with it. This one, a siege mounting. It's a very simple weapon. You could put them on a horse or mule and carry them with you wherever you went. And then this one, you see, you could grab it yourself and take it through the battle to points of interest, okay? So they were armed with all of this stuff. And these guys, this did terrify the Aztecs, even the Aztec warriors. They had never seen anything like this. This is a Canarian Mastiff, okay? It is a cross between a wolf dog and a Mastiff. And it was developed for military purposes. You see, that gives you an idea. They were trained to jump and go for your neck. Yeah. They could have, Cortes did not have that many, but had some. But usually this would be laid out in the hundreds in European battles. Okay. They had the Andalusian horse. Could carry weight. Okay. Was fast, maneuverable. Unlike the Arab horse, which could be very fast and maneuverable, but didn't have the stamina. You couldn't put heavy stuff on it, okay? And it could jump, okay? Here is Spanish unit, on the march. You notice the mixture. You got pikes, you got arquebus people, you got swordsmen. This is very typical on the horses. and this is also very typical, there was no pussyfooting around. The Spanish concept, go at it immediately. No negotiations, no nothing. And this, I believe, is pretty accurate. You notice they're not running away either. Okay. So the Aztec warriors did what they could. All right. The defeat of the Aztecs was due to military, political strategies, and fighting tactics. Okay. One thing is to fight for kill, and the other one is to capture prisoners. Warriors and contribution from the Aztec enemy tribes. The Spanish, Cortes, immediately, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Not only did they take him in, but they also took in the strategies and tactics that they had developed. This is something that is left out of the histories. The contribution of the Indians to the military tactics. They had better weapons, guns, armor, horses, and war dogs. The location of Tenochtitlan went against them now, because they had limited accesses. Well, an enemy could come in, the Spanish, and cut the access, and they were surrounded by water. Plus they had ships going around shallow. Okay. Cut off drinking water and supplies. Aztecs starved to death. Pestilence and other diseases, that happened. The fight for Tenochtitlan, the city itself, was very, very hard, you know. And it took many weeks to surrender them to. Okay? That's the part, I just gave you the part that I don't like, okay? Because it's really bad. But the Aztecs, you can, excuse me. You have to ask, well, how do they feed themselves? They developed what is called the Chinampa system. Absolutely wonderful system. One of the greatest horticultural systems ever developed, ever devised. I'll go into it. It's creating by piling logs into the lake bed, okay, and then taking mud onto the area that is encircled by this poles, and filling it up by layers of lake mud and soil and this and that, which they had calculated, and it makes for a terrifically fertile production system. So remember this, they had that. This is the way to communicate outside. So Cortés cut that off. Okay. The Chinampas of Xochimilco, and they are down here today. You can go and visit them right here. Include more than 6,000 acres, okay, of wetlands in the southern shore of what was Lake Xochimilco, part of the immense network of lakes and canals that once extended through the whole valley of Mexico. Nothing exists now, except a little bit in the southern part. While they existed, this method, you know, of digging and piling and raising, it was not the Aztecs that developed this. This was developed all through Mesoamerica. And the Aztecs were very adept at, picking up knowledge and techniques from other tribes. They designed a sewage. They designed something that we still don't have ourselves. How do you deal with your excreta, your waste? Okay. So what do? We have treatment plants and so on. The Aztecs actually used it. They had a sewage system, and they would incorporate in the production system all this waste. Okay. So it was self-sustaining. They had no problems. The Chinampas were about 300 by 20 feet. And I repeat, they're staking out the shallow lake bed and then fencing in the rectangle with wattle. Okay. The fenced off area was then layered with mud, lake sediment, decaying vegetation, eventually bringing it to a level above the lake. Okay. They used willows, you see, and then cypress. It wasn't, they were living, they were living posts, okay? So they have to worry about having to replace them, okay? The Chinampas were separated by canals. The raised beds were used in back. I said that already. Chinampas produced as much as 7 crops a year. Think about 7 crops a year. Here are the willows, okay? The lake, they get the mud, get it in there. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Here's a layer. First, they would lay something solid, could be logs or whatever. Then they would put hyacinth, water hyacinths, okay? Then they would put soil. Then they would put the mud from the lake. And on top of that, they would plant, okay? This is what I'm talking about. I'm sure you have seen it all over, it's our beautiful water lilies, okay? Like that. So there's plenty available, okay? And this is somebody working, okay? You could get fish, okay? You got fish. And you also had the benefit of the mud and so forth. This is fairly recent. They're still functioning. Now they added hoops, a bit of modernizing a little bit. Okay. I don't know what this guy's doing. Anyway. There are approximately 100 miles of canals weaving through Xochimilco's wetlands, okay? The waves, this is a father to son and so forth, used to be the past knowledge required to maintain these things. But the kids don't want to be there anymore. So this whole thing is in danger of disappearing. The tourists come, okay, they're in, so. Yeah. When you look at the work involved, it's mind-boggling. It's just mind. But but the thing that amazes me, they did this in 100 years. I mean, from scratch. Okay. Quickly, that's what it looks like. They start out, they get the little muds and divide it up in little squares, and they put the seeds in there, they germinate, and then they divide this with the seedling, and then take it and place it where it's supposed to go. in the Chinampa proper, okay? That's what it looks. Polyculture. No monoculture here. It's all mixed, okay? And it changes within each of the Chinampa, the position changes, and there are some crops are together, others are separate. The idea is to mix, have a polyculture, many crops, okay? But no monoculture, no Chinampa, just for corn and corn and corn. That's no, okay? It's a view of the mixture going on, okay? Okay, more. And these guys tended to it. Pollution. This is today. Mexico City, is not exactly clean air. And this is impacting on the production. It's very contaminated, and it's impacting on the Chinampas in production. Goes down. Some fear that it will disappear. It may disappear in Mexico, but I can tell you, these things are done in Finland too. So the Finns have Chinampas, yeah. And not just now. Remember, there are a lot of lakes over there? Guess what? I can do that too. And the Balearic Islands, this copied. In the Mediterranean, they also have Chinampas, okay? In a different modified way. So it's not gonna die. Even within Mexico, there are Chinampas now being set up in the southern part of Mexico. So the knowledge is there, the thought is there. Encourages biodiversity. I remember years ago, a good friend I had, he's gone now, Roberto, he was forever preaching me. Oh, he was a very indigenous type, oh, the Spanish were so bad and this and that and so on. All I do is get an umbrella and wait, okay? And we went in there and we cooperated in determining how fertile and what was going on in that soil. And we did it all. And it was amazing. I mean, this thing was 10, 15, 20 times more fertile as far as production potential than anything I knew of. Yeah. So this stays. Okay. Summary. The Aztec Empire was based on Tenochtitlan, an island, actually, an island made by them, in the lake. It was ruled by an emperor, Tlatoani, very stratified government, You had nobles and so on, and then you have very important people called the Pachecas. They were the traders that carry material from one part of the empire to the other, and they were powerful with money. Okay. In reality, it was based on war. That was the real thing. When the justification for all of that was survival, and you had to please Huitzilopochtli with blood by exacting tribute. Okay. Hernan Cortés landed, okay, and he had an initial success with very few men. Some idiot, Ojeda, decided to kill the emperor who he had captured, okay, and the thing blew up. So they had to get out of there, what they call the sad night, Noche Triste, losing 50 to 70% of the men. Okay. Cortés, of course, returned with Indian allies and so on, so he took it. The Chinampa system. If there is one thing that the Aztecs developed, not originated, but developed, was the Chinampa production system. That stays, we know about it, we know how to do it. It can be done here in Alabama, provided you had Aztecs. Okay. Thank you. Let's stop there, okay? What?
I have a question for you.
Sure.
You talked about agriculture,
Yeah.
but what was the main source of animal protein, fish?
I'll deal with that now, okay? Fish, certainly, but there were all, hear me out now, okay? I'm going to deal with that. Okay, good question. Critical question. Okay, as usual. All right, let's go on to the next part of it. Crops grown by the Aztecs. And you can list them. Corn, number one, corn. Developed by the Aztecs? No. Okay. Grown by the Aztecs? Yes. Okay. When I said developed, I mean used by the Aztecs. Okay. It turned out very few of them were actually developed by them. They were taken from further south, from the Maya and the southern Mexico area. So bear that in mind. Okay. So we have a corn and tomato, chili, various vegetables, and of course, agaves. Okay. Peppers, amaranth, purslane, epazote. I'll get into that. Okay. Jicama. Okay. Here it is. One of them is amaranth. What's amaranth? Pigweed. You've seen this around. It's probably growing on your lawn, you know. It grows over there. Well, that's the lowly pigweed. Okay. Some guy tried to tell me that it had come from Africa. I didn't answer it. Okay, didn't answer. Anyway, the Aztecs had it, and look what it says here. The scientific name, Amaranthus, amaranth, cruentus, cruel. Okay, what was Linnaeus thinking about? He read that the Aztecs used the grains from this and mixed it with human blood, and then they ate it. Well, I've never been able to, you know, look into that. Nor do I intend to waste time on that. But anyway, that is the origin of cruentus. It's tasty to them. Okay. And then Kelite. Kelite from Kelitl, plants with edible foliage. They grew, remember I said it was the Chinampa, they grew all kinds of things in there. Plenty to choose from. Okay, look at that. Varied diet. Okay. Okay. You've seen this, right? It's here. It's purslane. You don't think of purslane. It's a weed with us. You don't think of it as being a food or very useful. It's one of the main things they grew and developed varieties and so forth. When I say they, maybe not the Aztecs, somebody, okay? And they yeah. So here. I'm sure our compatriots in California have already got into it, okay? Okay. And John, here's your answer. This is the milpa. The milpa is a production system. The Aztecs used it. They probably borrowed from further south. And it consists, you see, you have this Kelitl. Then you got corn, beans, you got beans. You even have the pumpkin and pumpkin flowers. They would eat pumpkin flower, the male flowers, they would eat it, you know. And all of this is a system. And of course, the main job is corn. But it's so contrived, if you grow corn after corn after corn, it's sayonara, you kill that soil. Not here. It's a sustainable system. Okay.
Let me ask you, is there a difference between the corn that was in Mesoamerica and
What?
South America?
Absolutely.
And is there a difference between the corn in Mesoamerica and South America and what was here when we came to America?
Look, I'll get that. Okay. Okay. This is what they had. This is the corn, Indian corn. It was not any different from what was grown here. Okay. The corn that came to the southeast came from the Mayas. And the Mayas had active trading. The stuff from here has been found in the Yucatan Peninsula and vice versa. So there is evidence that there was quite a bit of trading and exchanging going on. But that is the answer, okay? Notice too that it's very mixed genotypically. It's not just one genotype. The color is different, and if the color is different from one grain to the other, many other things are too. And that makes it much more sustainable. Okay? I can tell you of disasters, they don't pertain to here. Okay. And guess what? You got Huitlacoche. This is a smut. When you look at it, oh my God, this is a fungus. Let me tell you, it's delicious. So it is delicious. They harvested the corn and whatever grew was the corn. You'd say, well, I won't touch that. Okay, don't touch it. I will. Okay. And you can buy it. You can go on the web and buy it. Here, Huitlacoche. This is pumpkin flowers. So this is a business. Talking about Columbian exchange. Hold on, you'll see more. This is nothing. Okay. Okay. Here. This is in the big market in Mexico City, piled up in there. And they'll serve it to you. Very good, a taco with Huitlacoche in it. And it's great. I did have reservations the first time. But once I bit into it, I like this, you know. Okay, back to business. That was a footnote. Okay. World corn production. Columbian exchange now. This is heavy, heavy, heavy. 36% in the United States. China, 22%. Okay. But somewhere around here, Mexico, only 2%. Mexico must import corn today. They are not self-sufficient in corn. Why? Not enough land. It's as simple as that. There are other things, but let's leave it there. What will happen to China if there was no corn? Don't go there then. Don't go near that place because the place will collapse. Absolutely. Okay. Columbian exchange. Okay. There you go. So, from the Aztec complex of cultures, okay, this came out. But wait, there's more.
The production in Indonesia and
I'm sorry?
is that for human consumption or for animal?
I'll get into that. Okay. Consumption now, but this is all things. Okay. The U.S. 34%, China 20%. Okay. Mexico
Quick question on that, Ron. How much of that consumption now is reflected in the production of ethanol from corn?
There it is. I'll give it to you. Okay. I'll answer. Okay. The UN food source where consumption is 50 grams per person of a day is considered import in a country. Okay. Maize or corn in Africa, 52 to 328 grams per person per day. Okay. And in Mexico, 267. This is 2009 data. Okay. Okay. Getting to you. Billion feed and residual, 36. Industrial, alcohol included, and I'll get more detail. 51%. For export, this is U.S., 30%. Here's your answer. Ethanol production, 80. That, and then boom. It's absolutely stupid. No one in his sane mind would disagree with me. It is either level, no gain, or negative. You're putting more into it, more energy into it than you get out. And this was foisted on us as the solution, the substitution for crude oil and so forth. No comment. Okay. Yeah.
Does this American corn consumption include the corn syrup?
Yeah, it will. Yeah, it's not. I can get the data for you, and that is a very good observation because that's been foisted to replace sugar, sucrose. Mistake, big mistake. Let's not get into that. Okay. And there's China, that's us, a little bit down here. Mexico, almost nothing. You know. Where did it come from? Where did it come from? There is no wild corn. You can go all through the world looking for wild corn. And the only thing good about that would be a title for a novel, okay? That's it, okay? Science fiction, okay? But anyway, there is no such thing. Corn is a totally artificial plant fashioned by man in Mesoamerican agriculture. Totally. Okay? Modification of naturally occurring grass, teosinte. Okay? Look, that's teosinte. This is a natural hybrid of teosinte with something else, okay? And then you get corn, okay? Okay, that is teosinte, and this is corn, okay? Teosinte is a grass that is perennial. It is perennial and has many stems, and each produces that. That's the ear. We talk about ear of corn, but that's the ear of teosinte, okay? Just like that. Compared to modern maize. One stem. Huh? This is just to emphasize that. If you have a teosinte ear, take a grain, you have to crack it open because it's hard. And then you get this, okay? Of course, we know about corn. Okay. Here's teosinte. Some people in the Midwest, John, got the idea sometime back, why don't we go perennial with this thing and forget about corn, and then we work a little on teosinte, and then we got it made. Didn't work out. Okay. but I'm sure they got some grants out of it. Okay. Amaranth. You can go to the web and order amaranth. It's available. I've had it. Won't order it again. Okay. Pigweed. Purslane, I already told you about it. But look about this. I go back to purslane. Energy, all the vitamins, very little fat, significant amount of protein, okay? No cholesterol. It's a good thing for a weed. Epasodic. We don't have that. But it's the closest we have is, you know what, the closest we have, excuse me, is chickweed. Chickweed is around. That's the closest. It's very close because it's both are chenopodiums, and I know you know this because it is in the local market, jicama. And this is a bean, again a bean, that produces a tuberous root. Okay. And also in addition, you see, it produces beans that are edible too. So you get the root, like a sweet potato, but then you also get the beans. Okay. The protein in the root, I don't know. It's going around the world. This is an Asian, probably Chinese situation, but you can find it all over. It has been accepted. It's very tasty, by the way. You like water chestnuts? Okay. It tastes, to me, it tastes like water chestnut, and it has that little crunchy thing there. It's really good. Columbian Exchange. Now, what about that? What would the world do without this? Mamma mia. Ay. The principal one is Capsicum annum, but there are many others. These plants are native to the Americas, nowhere else, okay? Capsicum is American, okay? Colombians, they have become cultivated worldwide, okay? In fact, pardon my prejudices, but if you go somewhere that you weren't there before, go to a restaurant and they don't use any of this, please leave. Believe me, okay. But there are 22, 27 species, out of which we have these 5 that are used in human consumption. Here you go. Hey, look, Bicapton. This is the common one. Here you have pubescens. Notice that this one has got black seed, okay? And then you get this evil thing here, okay? And that one that is probably even more evil as far as how hot it is. So that brings the next subject. Mixture of what is available. Hungarians without goulash. No paprika. You don't have paprika, I don't know what you're going to do. Riots in the streets, okay? So that is one of them. Now here we come. The scientists. We got to put some order on this, man. I mean, you come in and say it's very hot, and no, it's mild, and so no, we're going to have to put some more. So Schofield came back, and he said, okay, this is 0, okay? And that is 1,500,000 units. This is the super hot. and you got them over here. The naga, a Japanese one. Then you have something, it says hot here, medium heat cayenne peppers. These are habaneros. They always call it habaneros. Somebody needs to learn Spanish, okay? It's habanero, okay? Cayenne peppers, jalapenos, and then the usual bell pepper. It's actually a logarithmic scale. Here they put it. This is inedible. This will kill you. Yeah. And then you go down to bell peppers, okay? To the chemist, okay? Let's not get into that. There are many.
I heard that a little chuckle about will kill you. Literally, that's true.
Oh yeah,
Literally illegal when you get to that.
absolutely. Capsaicin will kill you if you go over the borders, okay? There are many types of capsaicin, which is the active ingredient, the hot thing, okay? But there are many types, you see them. Capsaicin is 16 million pure capsaicin. Depends on the amount you take, okay? But it's very, very hot, okay?
Is pepper spray made from one of these?
I'm sorry?
Is pepper spray made from this?
Wait, okay. Very good question. Oh, somebody's got a military mind. Oh, welcome. I thought I was alone. Okay. Does that answer it? And you know what? It's relatively easy to extract. Use alcohol and you extract it. Get rid of the alcohol and you get capsaicin, mixture of capsaicin. So it's very simple. Yeah. I don't know, these guys, oh Lord, God knows. I don't know. It's all over. I said it is an American group of plants, okay? And I mean American, all over, here, all the way down. Here is somebody, and he has a perennial one growing. So she gets in there, his cooking goes outside, picks up what he needs, and put it back in there. So right there, okay. Okay. Here we go again. Columbian exchange. Top pepper belly countries. Okay. Guess who's the first? China, Mexico. Really? China is by far the greatest producer and consumer of peppers. I'm sorry? Okay. I'm not understanding. I'm sorry. Okay. This is just to give you an eye view. The bluer, the hotter. So we're batting out there in the U.S. and Mexico, and look at China, Spain. Now, Mediterranean food is not hot. Who told you that? Okay. Here you go. Tomato. We now change tomato. But tomato is not Aztec. I told you, it's not, but they used it, okay? And in fact, they didn't even develop it, tomatoes that we know today. I mean, the big one that was developed further south. It came, this is really a fantastic story, because it didn't come from Mesoamerica. It came from Peru. Right here. Here's Peru, coastal area of Peru, and you find all of these wild tomatoes, which are little bitty things like that, and tough. One of them, this one, okay, Chilense, you cannot bite into it. It's that tough. It's a desert plant. It will survive, okay? Linnaeus there in Uppsala, somebody brings this thing to him from the Americas. Okay. Well, what is this? So the guy looks at it. He's a superb scientist. He said, okay, it's close to the potato. So he called it Solanum lycopersicum. Huh? But it is Solanum eggplant. You see that? So they swallow it. Swallow it. Okay. Now watch. Some guy decided that no, this is not a Solanum. So he wants to get his name in the literature. So he said it's lycopersicum. So he calls it esculentum. And for years, when I went to, I was in undergraduate, it was lycopersicum esculentum. Okay. Well, guess what? Somebody got serious, and the analysis come, went into DNA, and Carolus Linnaeus was right, absolutely right. I told you he was a very good observer. So I said, vivat academia. Okay. We can settle things definitively. And this is his place. I was there. And it's his place. This is where Linnaeus lived. And they keep, to this day, they keep the gardens very well maintained. I walked in there like I was going into some kind of a holy place, because he truly was an incredible individual. Just a little etymology. Here we go. Okay. To the native Mexican, tomatillo is tomate. Tomate, okay? And it comes from the Nahuatl, tomatl, so it's tomate, okay? No problem. But then the Aztecs and others, they started getting these much bigger than those little things in Peru. They have moved through Central America and fell in the hands of the Mayans and so on, and they started making and selecting, and they got these big things. And that is what the Aztecs got. So when they got it, they had to distinguish from tomate. So now in Mexico, they call it jitomate, which means for plum thing with a navel. That's what it translates to. So now you know where the word tomato comes from, okay? We go back to Nahuatl, okay? And my wife introduced me to Ochuba, which is a physalis, the same thing. This is in Colombia. You can get it now, and it makes a wonderful drinks. There it is, and gels and so forth. Another physalis. Yeah. This was not known to the Aztecs, as far as I know. Here's another Japanese lantern. That's what we're talking about. Physalis. It is edible. Okay. We get now into the matter of the corporal world. If you got industrial horticulture, you want those tomatoes to mature at the same time, so that you can go in and harvest. In your backyard, that's the last thing you want. You want the thing to be producing all along, okay? Those are called indeterminate. And the first one, maturing at the same time, determinate, okay? This is what the corporal world wants. And believe me, it is that way, okay? And this is what we want. We got some maturing and then the little bitty ones in there so that you can go on, we want indeterminate, okay? We love tomatoes. We love tomatoes. 2016, processed tomatoes. The U.S., China again. Yeah.
That's gross, so
I'm sorry?
that's gross, that's not per capita numbers.
No, this is total production.
Yeah.
Total production, yeah. That says it all, okay? The bigger the tomato, okay, all right. I'm sorry?
What was Italian cuisine like before the tomato arrived?
What was the Roman cuisine? I don't know. I don't want to know. No. Okay. And I don't know if I got enough time, but I'll try to go quick. Okay. We're going to agave. Okay. They're American species. There are two. I'm going to skip on this one. This is from South America in the Fulcrea and agave. This one has got this spine, that one doesn't. This one is for fiber. Okay. Here's this guy, he's harvested, he's getting the fibers, okay. Very fine fiber, so he has a market. And then the versatile agaves. You got anything here? Okay, quick, okay. Products. You get the fiber, alcohol, pulque, mezcal, tequila, what have you. Okay. Here's agaves. It's a wonderful diversity. Wonderful diversity. Oh, sisal production for fiber. There it is. Here's this guy. And they put it out in the field to dry on the sun. Okay. Sisal production. Brazil, Tanzania, Kenya. Probably has gone now down because of competition from the plastic and synthetic fibers. But at one time, this is what all there was, okay? Keep that. Then there is pulque. Pulque was indeed an Aztec and Mesoamerican beer, okay? It's a beer, okay? And it looks like that, okay? And there's this guy going around selling it, okay? And you can get it packaged already. Okay, let me skip over this. Okay. What you do is you get your agave, and you want to avoid this. You know, it has a flower stalk that comes out. You want to cut that. The moment you see evidence that it's going to flower, you want to cut that. And that's what is happening here, see? So you go in there and cut that, and then in there you dig a little hole, okay? And the sweet sap starts accumulating. And every day you come in and take it, aguamiel is a sweet water, okay? And that's what you use for fermentation. And you get your pulque that way. But mezcal is not, never was, an Aztec, or for that matter, Indian in general. It was a Spanish thing. I think the monks were getting bored, and they weren't in Andalusia, and they wanted to do something. So why don't we distill this thing? And that's my interpretation of it. Because in Spanish, for all, when you're feeling bad, mezcal. And when you're feeling good, mezcal. You know, take it. Okay, let's go. I'll go through visually now. Okay. This is the gimador. Gemir in Spanish, but it's a hard work. So they call him he who is always doing that, okay? So he wants to get this which is a ball with no leaves. Then they take it to a place and they cook it to transform starch into sugar, fructose, to be specific. Okay? Factory. Okay? There you go. They go in the oven, they cook them, they come up like that, then they grind them, okay? Either traditionally, or they just rip it and get the stuff out, the sweet sap out, ferment it. So you got the blue agave, you roast this round thing that are called, actually piña is pineapple, they call it like a pineapple, okay? Then the yeast does its magic. You get alcohol production, distill it, and there you go. Mezcal by law can only be produced in these areas of Mexico, okay? Here. Tequila, which is also mezcal, but is produced from blue agave, okay? That can only be produced up here, okay? This guy's he needs to drop French, okay? He call it appellation. This denomination of origin, okay? And it is very jealously guarded so that you have good tequila and so forth. And production. Or better still, there it is. From 1995 to this. Okay. That can happen, you know. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.